right, new bar for powerlifting is here. A custom Rogue Ohio bar. It says Rogue here, but what does it say on the other side? Oh snap. So you want to get a new barbell and you've been looking through Rogue's different options and not sure whether you should go with the Ohio Power Bar or the Ohio Deadlift Bar. I was in the same situation a long time ago, and after using both of them for a long time now, I'm going to cover a lot of things from the sizes, knurling, whip, what all that stuff even means, and how that will affect your lifts with some things to consider. So let's get into it with looking at the two bars here. I'm going to be comparing the Rogue 45-pound Ohio bar with the Cerakote versus the Rogue Ohio Deadlift Bar Cerakote, and they're both called Ohio because they're made in Ohio. So made in America, USA manufacturing, you can see on both of these, so that's cool. But when we're looking at price, first off, you see there's lots of different options for both the Rogue Ohio Deadlift Bar and then here for the Rogue Ohio Power Bars. You have all this E-coat, stainless steel, Cerakote, black zinc, all these things, and a lot of the same options in the deadlift bar. So I went with the Cerakote. It's the more expensive one, but from what I looked at, it's gonna last a long time. You can get this for, what, $65 cheaper, but the bare steel is gonna take a lot more upkeep. So I would steer clear of that unless you just really want that. And then these are similar. They'll still work well, but from what I looked at, this is what I wanted to get. So the Rogue Ohio Deadlift Bar with the Cerakote. But what I actually went with here for the Ohio Power Bar was this custom one, which is essentially the Cerakote one. You can pick which color shaft you want here. I got black. And then for the sleeve, I got this chrome finish. Bushings, you can change the various colors here. And then you can customize the shaft. So you see it's $355. But then as soon as you go in here and I put my logo, Camber Fitness, oops. So I thought, hey, that'd be pretty cool. And I made it gray like this because it looked like that would match the same color as the Rogue symbol that's on the other side. That makes it $505 plus shipping and all that. So it ends up being quite expensive. And the one thing, if I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't do the customization because to me, that's not really worth it. And it didn't turn out gray like this. It was almost still white looking. So if you really want a custom bar, you know, go for that. But if I could go back and do it again, I would just go with the straight Ohio Powerlift Bar and the Cerakote. So let's look at the differences here. First up are the lengths. You'll see the normal powerlifting bar is 86.5 inches, pretty much. And then the bar length of the deadlift one is 90.5 inches. So you have a longer bar for the deadlift bar. So you can see when they're next to each other that it's not crazy. It's only about, what, 2 inches on each side. And the loadable sleeve is also different as well. So you can see the Ohio Power Bar actually has a longer loadable sleeve. We can see here in this picture, it is 15.5 inches for the loadable sleeve on the deadlift bar. And then for the normal power bar, you've got 16.25, which I thought was kind of strange because to me, if you're deadlifting, you're probably gonna be able to deadlift more and you'll be putting more plates on that as opposed to doing a squat and bench press with the other one. And that's typically what you would think of. You use the power bar for your squat and your bench press and then the deadlift bar for your deadlift because it's for deadlifting. And one of the reasons for that you can see here is this where it says great whip on the deadlift bar, whereas it says no whip on the Ohio Power Bar. And to give you a few examples of what that means. When you're deadlifting, I did this the other day, this was 425 pounds. I think it was 422. Some of my weights aren't perfectly calibrated. So you can see as I start pulling on it, the bar bends quite a bit before it comes off the ground. And that couple inches of movement actually makes a pretty big difference on how much you can lift. So that was 422. And then if we look, when I loaded it up on the Ohio Power Bar, I did 405 pounds. And you can see the bar, it still bends a little bit, but not nearly as much. So you don't have that couple of extra inches of movement before it comes off the ground. And I could really feel that all the way up into my upper back way more than normally because you're still in that lower bent position as opposed to your legs already being up some and your range of motion and full travel is shorter essentially once you get off the ground with the deadlift bar as opposed to the Ohio Power Bar. So that's one of the main benefits. You'll be able to lift more. It felt harder doing 405 with the power bar as opposed to the 422 I did with the deadlift bar. And then when it comes to bench pressing, typically you would use a power bar. So here doing 225, just doing some reps here, just down and back up. There's no movement. You wouldn't expect it to. When you move to the deadlift bar, however, there is a little bit of bend, and if you start doing fast reps, the bar will actually bend a little bit on you when you get to the top of your reps, and even if you hit your chest because of that quick movement. But with your hands being wider, it's going to be way less as opposed to a deadlift where your hands are closer, so it's pulling closer to the center of the bar and causing more of a bend. And lastly, when we get to squats, you can see here, just doing 315, once again, the bar, all the weight is pretty much on the middle of the back. So as you go down and come back up, there's gonna be a little bit of bend on the bar when you get to the top of the rep. Even with the Ohio Power Bar, not a huge deal, but compare that to the deadlift bar, you'll see it bend quite a bit when I get to the top of the rep. And if you're doing a lot of reps, that's not necessarily you want happening when you're doing squats, getting up and having a bunch of rebound and bouncing on your back with 300 plus pounds or however much you're doing. So helpful for deadlifts, but not something you necessarily want to have for squats. Not a huge deal for a bench press, but still having as stable as a platform as you can on a bench press with the no whip bar of the Ohio Power Bar is probably something you'd rather have. And next thing to keep in mind is the type of knurling and where the marks are. So on both the bars, you have these powerlifting marks you can see. When you're bench pressing, you're grabbing in the proper spot, but with the power bar, you see you have the center knurling there, and on the deadlift bar, you have no knurling in the middle. And that's just the textured grip part for your hand, so the bar is not slipping. Especially like me working out in the garage, it's getting hot. If it was just the plain bar and my hands getting sweaty, that's not something you want happening. Chalk helps, but still the knurling is good. So one thing that I don't necessarily like is having the center knurling on the power bar, because when I put that on my back and you're using heavy weights, I like to wear tank tops, and I got this patch of dry skin at the top of my back, a little circle from where the bar sits. It almost looks like a scab all the time. And when I was going into my last bodybuilding show, I started putting the pad on a few weeks out so that the bar wouldn't be straight on my back, and using a pumice stone on that thing and a lot of lotion to try to get it to go away and blend in with the rest of my skin so I don't have this big dot on the top of my back. So something to consider. That's a small thing. I typically just wear a sleeveless shirt now instead of a tank top, and that's been helping out. But I get really hot and I prefer to just have the tank top. It's more comfortable. But I don't really want to use the deadlift bar. I used to do that, but just that bouncing at the top when I'm doing reps of 10 to 15 or sets of 10 to 15, it's not too comfortable. And then the type of knurling, they both say aggressive, but the deadlift bar is quite a bit more aggressive, because you think I'm grabbing on and pulling up hundreds of pounds with just my hands here, as opposed to holding the weight on your back, just keeping it stable, or holding a bench press just so your hands don't move. So you will notice the texture is a lot more intense on the deadlift bar as opposed to the power bar. Also, when it comes to grip, you see the power bar is 29 millimeters and the deadlift bar is 27 millimeters. So it is not as thick on the deadlift bar, and that helps you to wrap your hands around it even more, so you can have a tight grip instead of your hand being more open. And that helps with pulling up a lot of weight, once again, off the ground. And then the weight of it, you can see here, the power bar is 45 pounds. They do have 20 kilogram options, but in the States, I'm using 45 pounds. The deadlift bar only has the option of 20 kilograms. And when you're competing, everything is calculated in kilograms. So I guess it's helpful in that sense, but when you're at home, you just have to keep in mind, hey, it's about half a pound less than what it would be if I was using a normal 45 pound bar, normal for the United States. So based on all that, which one should you get if you can only get one bar for your gym? I would personally go with the Ohio Power Bar, because it's more stable overall for those lifts like a squat and bench press, where you don't want the bar having any of that whip on you. You can actually load more on it for deadlifting, so that is cool. But keep in mind, whatever numbers you can deadlift with that bar, you'll probably be able to do another 5% higher if you use a deadlift bar, because of that extra bend in the bar before you come up off the ground. Along with that, the fact that the power bar is $55 cheaper is always helpful, so you're getting everything you need in that one bar, and it's at a lower cost. And you do have those other options, again, that you could get all the way down to $295, $275 if you want the bare steel, but those other ones would still be good options. So $300 for a good bar. It's gonna last a long time. It's got all the powerlifting marks you need for practice, and its only limiting thing would be that you can't deadlift quite as much, but because of the bend in the bar, also the bar is thicker and the knurling isn't as aggressive. So if you keep that in mind, if you know a competition you're gonna do for deadlifting will have a bar with more whip, then just know, hey, I'm at a good starting place with this bar, because it's not gonna give as much. So when I do go to competition, it's gonna be a whole lot easier to do the same weights, and I can probably hit even higher PRs. But if you have any questions about either of these bars, post them down in the comments. I'll try to help you out the best I can. I've really liked Rogue stuff. I've been building at my home gym for a while. Have tons of Rogue dumbbells, barbells, my rack, just about most everything I have, and it's been really good. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just really good, high quality products. You're gonna pay for that quality, but it's definitely worth it. I've really been enjoying it. And at Camber Fitness on Instagram is where you can find me, where I'm posting all my lifts, prepping for my first powerlifting competition, posting my bench, squat, and deadlift. I haven't posted bench in a while because my shoulder's been hurting, so I'm trying to go easy on it before I get back into it. Got 3 months before the competition, but you can stay up to date there. And once again, any questions, let me know, and I'll see you soon.